Get ready to speak quack. Bo Nix is the next quarterback of the Denver Broncos. We'll tell you why this is a great pick for the franchise here on today's brand new episode, Locked On Broncos.
You are Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team
The Bo
every
Nix
day.
era of Denver Broncos football is officially underway as Sean Payton, George Payton, and the Denver Broncos just made Oregon Ducks quarterback Bo Nix the 12th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. Welcome in Broncos Country to another episode of Locked On Broncos. I am your co-host, Sayre Bedinger, alongside, as always, Cody Roark, who's at the Denver Broncos facility as we speak. As we're recording this, Cody, the ink is still fresh on the Denver Broncos selecting Bo Nix 12th overall. It's the highest quarterback the team has selected since Jay Cutler, who was the 11th overall pick back in the 2006 NFL Draft. Where were you when Broncos Country Mike Shanahan made that big move for a guy he was convicted about? Now, Sean Payton as head coach of the Denver Broncos. Cody, he's making a historic move, at least for him, and a major move for this franchise.
Yeah, on top of the two, look, Broncos Country, now the team has a quarterback. And look, Locked On Broncos is the one place to be every single day, all year long. You can get us for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. But, Sarah, to answer your question, this is a big move for the Broncos organization. There was a lot of talk, and I texted you before the draft even began. I said, hey, get ready to speak quack, or, you know, the Broncos are going to be smoking on that loud quack going forward here. But there was a lot of buzz here in the building that Bo Nix was going to be the guy here. And look, I think as we saw the NFL draft board really play out, Caleb Williams going first, we knew that was going to be the case. You know, then you have the other domino effects. I think the bigger surprise for all of us was Michael Penix Jr. to the Falcons at 8. And then all of a sudden now it became like, okay, J.J. McCarthy's still available. Do the Broncos really like him? Because there's the Minnesota Vikings. Well, the Minnesota Vikings traded up one spot because they were worried that maybe Denver liked J.J. McCarthy. Turns out all along, J.J. McCarthy was not the higher quarterback on their board. Bo Nix was higher on Denver's board than J.J. McCarthy, and now they get Bo Nix here in Oregon. And look, you get him on a rookie contract. He's going to come in and compete right away. And I think right now there's just a mixed reaction in Broncos Country, rightfully so. But here's the thing I always want to encourage, Sarah, like, you know, there's fans who are excited about it. I'm certainly excited about it because I had a chance to watch Bo at Oregon for several years, you know, the 2 years he was there. But on top of that, we just, like, while I'm excited, you have to let things play out, right? He could be good. He may not be good. Like, we don't know yet, but I think it's way too early for us to define that, hey, this is a home run for them or this is a terrible pick. I think that this is a good pick right now for where Denver's at on paper. Will it transition to that? I think is the question we have to ask ourselves, and we're not going to find out really till training camp and preseason.
Right. And can Bo Nix start for this team? Right. I mean, we'll have discussions ad nauseum about that, I'm sure, all throughout the offseason, but I think he can. Cody, what's been the book on Bo Nix from day one is that he's NFL ready, right? I mean, he's coming in. He's obviously going to be a bit of an older rookie, but that extra experience at the college level really helped him out because when he was at Auburn, man, he was thrust. He was a sheep being thrown into the wolves. You know, he was kind of a fish out of water, even as a 5-star prospect, but still held his own, still was able to compete and win some big games as a young player. But his game evolved as a pro prospect once he got to Oregon. And then, of course, as his game is evolving, as he's finally showing, okay, hey, I could do some of the things that you want from an NFL quarterback. Well, now it's, well, he throws too many short passes or the passing game at Oregon is too much of an extension of the run game. We get all the concerns, but there is so much to love about Bo Nix from the neck up, right? He thinks before he plays. He's out there doing a lot of pre-snap stuff. He's reading defenses. He's got the processing thing. Cody, when you listen to people who evaluate college football talk about this guy, and of course you watched him, it just sounds like he's been pro ready from the start. It's just that people don't like it because it's unspectacular in terms of his upside, whatever you want to say about that. I feel like it's not just a safe pick for the Broncos. It's the right fit for Sean Payton.
No, I think, you know, when we talk about right fit for Sean, I mean, what is that exactly? High level processing, right? Someone who can command the offense, who can get the ball out of his hands quickly. And also a guy who, look, he can take the shot downfield. He's a 3-level thrower. I think we lose track of that in the conversation from NFL, you know, like draft Twitter. Like draft Twitter, I think has become very over populated in terms of all these different voices muddying the well here. But if you look at his game, you go back and you actually watch the games at Oregon, he does things that Sean likes. And obviously we'll touch on a little bit later about what Sean likes, because that's something that actually led to Denver going with Bo Nix specifically. And it all had everything to do with a private workout. We'll get to that a little bit later on here on the show. But I also think it's worth mentioning that Denver really talked a lot to Alex Forsythe, who right now is the team's projected starter at the center position. And they asked him about what type of player he is, what type of leader he is. And Denver came away blown away because they've talked to teammates, they've talked to former coaches, but then they got to see it firsthand. And so I think for where a guy like Bo Nix is at, he's coming into a system that's fresh, right? That Sean Payton is going to build his offense around what Bo does best. But on top of that, Sean gave us a little bit of an inclination a little bit last week that, hey, we're asking these quarterback prospects, if we had to bring one play from your program, a touchdown play to the NFL, what would it be? And a lot of the conversation has been like, what is that going to be for Bo Nix? I'm excited to see how that's going to play out here for the Broncos and for Sean Payton. Can this boost the offense? I think so. If he can protect the football, which he did a really good job of at the University of Oregon, Denver's going to be in a good position, especially if he can get the ball out of his hands quickly inside the structure of what Sean wants to say. Because what have we heard him say? You have to be able to win within the pocket from time to time. Bo can do that.
45 touchdown passes compared to 3 interceptions this past year. I mean, it's astronomical. It's things that you don't really ever see. Video game like numbers, and going in and quitting the game when you throw an interception and restarting the game so you can throw 5 touchdowns instead. I've done that many times, Broncos country, when playing football video games. I know you have too. Don't lie about it. But look, Bo Nix did that in real life. I mean, he is that guy when it comes to taking care of the football, when it comes to operating an offense. And I think there's so much to this pick, Cody, when it comes to the quarterback brain trust, right? Davis Webb, Sean Payton, Joe Lombardi, Pete Carmichael, all these guys are going to be having weight to this discussion, not to mention George Payton, the general manager, Cody Roark, who just came into the front office. So the fact that all of these guys not Cody Roark, Cody Roark, all of these guys combining together to say, you know what, this is the guy that we believe can lead this team. The Broncos have what it takes, Cody, to help him succeed right away. Now it's going to be a great question of what comes next beyond this pick, which I know you and I will talk about. But for now, I feel like this is the right fit for the Denver Broncos.
I like the pick initially. And look, obviously, Broncos country, we want to hear from you as you're listening to Locked On Broncos, wherever you get your podcast. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, we appreciate you for that. Let us know your thoughts on Bo Nix now becoming the quarterback of the Denver Broncos, what they hope is to be the quarterback of the future, someone who's going to be here for many years to come. We had a chance after Bo Nix was drafted to speak with him on a conference call. Got to ask him a couple of questions as well. You get to hear some insight on the Broncos draft process with him, and more importantly, how he's adapted to change despite having different offensive coordinators almost every year of his collegiate career. How can that help him as he now makes the transition to the National Football League, where offense gets a little more complex? We'll talk about that on today's brand new episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's Locked On Broncos podcast is brought to you by our friends over there at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board, though. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or the resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker, with 2.5 million small businesses using LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode of your favorite Locked On podcast is brought to you by the best meal kit service in the game, Home Chef. No more having to answer the dreaded question, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Thanks to Home Chef and their chef design recipes that are delivered directly to my door, all pre-packaged, pre-portioned. They even peel the garlic cloves for you. And each recipe, one of my favorites, black and mahi, comes with a full page of easy to read instructions that include customization options and pictures to guide you along the way through the step-by-step process, so you don't have to ask, is that what chard looks like? I cannot recommend Home Chef enough, especially right now, because for a limited time, Home Chef is giving Locked On listeners 18 free meals, free dessert for life, and of course, free shipping on your first box if you head to homechef.com/lockedon today. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. Yes, you heard that right. Homechef.com/lockedon. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
Bo Nix was nearly left speechless when he got the call from the Denver Broncos as the 12th overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft. We hear from him about what it was like to get that call, to have the Broncos brass come out to Eugene and work him out privately, and what it was like maybe to transition to the NFL level, having worked with so many different offensive coaches. We're going to get into that and what Bo Nix had to say on a conference call after the first round of the 2024 NFL draft. But I want to say thank you and give a shout out to every single one of you that makes Locked On Broncos your first listen of the day every single day, and for rocking with us through draft season, where on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's free and available everywhere that you listen, and you can also watch the show on YouTube and subscribe there, because look, Broncos going to make quite a few picks. We expect more action, more fireworks here as the weekend progresses, so stay tuned to Locked On Broncos. Cody, I think that hearing from Bo Nix, I'm sure the shock and awe of the moment was overwhelming for him, but I feel like he gave some good insight into what went down in this pre-draft process. He got a chance to talk to the Denver media about what it was like to really have the Broncos kind of show him throughout this draft process their interest in him.
Yeah, I had great meetings with them. I've had between meetings and, workouts, throwing, all that good stuff. I was able to build great connection with them, and I always loved being around those the coaches and the guys making the decisions and all that kind of things. And I was just very excited, almost speechless when I got that call, but just very excited, very happy to be a Bronco.
I mean, and he did sound excited when we talked to him on the phone. I mean, obviously, just think about the moment, right? You just a few moments ago, you were just talking to George Payton and Sean Payton. They're saying, hey, we believe in you. We're going to go out and we're going to draft you. And then you have to hop on a conference call with all of us media people, and you have to get questioned left and right. And, I think that there were some really good questions asked overall by the media, which, hey, sometimes it doesn't happen. But you know what? I think we're all on our A game here today. But, I think for the draft process, you're going to end up right, because your fate is really, as you're sitting there as a prospect and as a player, you're waiting to see really how the board falls. And really for the Broncos, they were waiting to see how the board falls as well. Like, remember all the conversations we had in the pre-draft process, Sayre, about, okay, well, we're going to be eyeing really after pick number 3. What's going to happen when the Cardinals are on the clock at 4? They stayed put. What's the first trade going to be? And we didn't really see that happen until it was really the Vikings and the Jets who just swapped a pick there. So, I think overall the process itself can be frustrating, but it seems like Bo had a really good system around him, had a really good process overall in terms of how he scheduled these workouts, how he managed these workouts as well. And look, the Broncos, they put a lot of stuff together for him, and he nailed it from everything that I've been told. So that's something I think that we have to continue to watch, because I think rookie minicamp is going to be a couple weeks from now. So how does that process from, okay, hey, you just got drafted, now you're going to be on the field, how do we evaluate that in a vacuum in a short amount of time is going to be fun to watch.
It really is. And of course, we know the driving force behind this selection, ultimately the man who makes the final call when it comes to Denver Broncos player personnel, is ultimately Sean Payton. We know it's a collaborative process, but at the end of the day, Sean Payton is the one staking his name as the lead decision maker, or the final decision maker, to this Bo Nix selection. And so we knew that if the Broncos were going to take a quarterback in this draft, that Sean Payton and this quarterback, whoever he was, they were going to have to hit it off, right? They were going to have to formulate a great relationship, and Sean was going to have to be what was the word that we used all throughout the offseason? Convicted, or was it remind me what the word was, Cody? They were definitely
You're right. Conviction. Like that was the main word. Like you have to have conviction that he's the guy. And apparently that was the guy all along. Like I said, the buzz really escalated the moment we stepped into the building here today. But all along, apparently it has been Bo Nix, and it really came after his pro day. And then the next day he had the private workout, which, we heard a little bit more about. And I mean, conviction, and Denver has conviction. Sean Payton has conviction in this pick, but also at the same time, like Sean is putting his legacy on the line here with this selection. So this is going to be very entertaining to follow here in the next 4 or 5 years here for Broncos country.
Well, and Bo Nix talked about that as well, right? He talked about being kind of pursued by Sean Payton. He's been asked about, I saw a clip from him on, he was on with Kay Adams, and, she said something once again. I know he's done multiple interviews like this, but saying, hey, you would look really good in a Sean Payton offense. And he was basically like, I keep hearing that from a lot of people, so you kind of get the feeling like these guys knew what maybe their best fit was going into this process, but he did speak a little bit to this idea of being pursued by Sean Payton and having Sean as the kind of leader of bringing him to Denver.
Well, we talked a lot of football, and we talked a lot about his scheme and what he's done for so many years and how he's been so successful. But it was a blast talking football, to be honest with you. It was a blast being in there with him and the other coaches. And they brought a lot of guys out there to the private, and I was just, very honored to have them around. I know it's tough to get to Eugene, but I was super excited, super thrilled to work with them. Had a blast, and I definitely saw a great relationship there at that moment. So I'm just happy to be a part of their team now.
It's not that difficult to get to Eugene from Denver, Colorado. I know, like, everyone thinks Eugene's out in the sticks there, but I mean, from Denver, you get a direct flight, baby. So anyone wants to go watch an Oregon Ducks game, that's the thing to do. But obviously, I think bringing a large contingent here, Sayre, to his private workout, I imagine that consisted of Sean, consisted of George, consisted of their scouting department. But on top of that, Davis Mills. Like, I'm very curious to hear the process when we get a chance to actually meet Bo in person, what Davis Webb, my goodness, Davis Webb's role. Davis Webb's role has been here behind the scenes, because Davis has actually been very, very involved. Sean Payton has given him a lot of power, especially after being a first year, like, transition from playing to coaching. He's given him a lot of autonomy. So Davis Webb, very curious to find out, how that connection there and what that relationship is like between Bo and Davis and Sean, kind of that quarterback brain trust, so to speak, outside of the organizational one. But I also think another thing we have to highlight here, Sayre, and I know I'll let you touch on it after we hear from Bo, but how do you handle all the changes that you go through in your collegiate career? Like I said, at Auburn, it wasn't really stable for him. There were some ups, there were some downs. But then on top of that, you also look at different OC changes every single year. That's hard to manage. And the Broncos, they've done that to some of their professional quarterbacks that they've had since Peyton Manning was on the roster. So here's what Bo had to say on handling those changes at offensive coordinator. Bo, throughout your college career, you've had different offensive coordinators almost every year. Now you're going to have a new offensive coordinator coming into the NFL. What can you take from those experiences that will give you an advantage coming into the league your first year?
Well, I've been able to learn a lot, and, I've been given a lot of information, and I've had to put it to use. And so I feel like that prepared me at a high level, and I feel like my experience has been really good for me. To where now this situation, I'll be able to learn and grow as time goes on. As we go into camps and get to practice, and I just feel really confident in myself that I'll be able to pick it up and ask good questions and be very intentional and enjoy the process.
It certainly feels to me like Bo Nix is the type of guy who's going to be able to pick something up quickly. But I want to touch on something you said before that I think can really factor into this, Cody, is the inclusion of Davis Webb as the team's quarterback's coach. And really what he's going to be tasked with is not just maximizing the quarterback's physical skills, but maximizing their potential within this offense, right? And so you're going to want to, as Davis Webb, you're going to want to get these guys up to speed as quickly as possible. So it wouldn't surprise me if, like you said, I mean, he's been instrumental throughout this process in getting in Sean Payton's ear and saying, look, this guy, Bo Nix, I mean, he's going to be able to come in and execute all these things from day one, because remember what was the failure of the Paxton Lynch selection? It wasn't a lack of talent, because he was obviously very talented, big arm, a lot of size, athletic. It wasn't the fact that he was, wasn't too small or whatever. He was a big guy. What failed Paxton Lynch, or why Paxton Lynch failed, was the inability to be able to process, the inability to pick up the offense, the inability to read what defenses were doing. That never clicked at the NFL level. I think for Bo Nix, that's going to be able to happen quickly, because he was able to do that. He proved that he could do it quickly at the college level, playing at Auburn, going up against NFL guys at Alabama all the time. You're playing against NFL talent every week. Then at Oregon, I mean, we just saw the first defensive player taken in this year's draft from the Pac-12. So he's going up against NFL caliber guys. And I think that transition from Auburn to Oregon and being able to have the type of production that he did and mold his game, he's proven that he's going to be able to make this jump to the NFL quickly.
Well, and that's going to be the big question, is how long until we get to see a guy like Bo Nix on the field? It's going to be week 1. I anticipate that's going to be the case. I think that Sean Payton is going to give the keys to him from day one, but there is going to be competition. He's going to go against guys like Patrick Surtain in practice almost every single day. So there is a lot that we'll see, and we'll maybe get a vibe out of Bo Nix here. But like I said, I also think we need to approach it from the premise of, hey, even if he struggles in year 1, it doesn't mean it's a failed pick. Like, there's development, there's arches to this. And even if he struggles, it doesn't mean that he's not going to work out. If he has a lot of success in year 1, it doesn't mean he's going to maintain or sustain that through the course of his rookie, contract. So we just have to take things as they go here in Broncos country. One thing we are going to dive deep into as well is some more behind the scenes stuff regarding the process here. We got some insight in terms of how the Broncos and Sean Payton fell in love with Bo Nix. We'll break all that down and much more here on today's brand new episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's Locked On Broncos podcast is brought to you by our friends over there at Monopoly Go. And folks, do you have a competitive side? I'm one of the most competitive people that I know. I can't even play a lot of board games at family night because of my competitive nature. But you know what? It's fun. And one thing I absolutely love to do is get involved on Monopoly Go, which is one of the most competitive games that you can play, but now you can play it from your mobile device. And Monopoly Go, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times in the app stores. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly, but now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards, they show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. As we jump into the fourth quarter action on today's episode of Locked On Broncos, real quick, I want to say thank you so much to everyone for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day every single day. You can get us for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. The background of the NFL draft is always interesting, right? You read so many different stories about various prospects, but I think more importantly, as it pertains to the Broncos, whose first round pick in the last couple of years, they go quarterback here, taking Bo Nix out of the University of Oregon. And obviously, this is something we're going to continue to touch on here on the show here. But it was interesting to find out after the pick had happened, Adam Schefter had put out some great insight into the process that led to the Broncos saying, hey, you know what? We have conviction that Bo Nix is going to be the guy here. And it's a bold statement, to say the least, from what Schefter had put out there. But Adam Schefter, or my voice doppelganger, dropping some interesting nuggets following the Broncos selection of Bo Nix.
Well, maybe the most interesting of all being this, he says, Cody, I mean, Sean Payton, this is from Adam Schefter's X or Twitter account. He says this: Sean Payton wanted and intended to draft Patrick Mahomes in the 2017 draft when he held the 11th overall pick. He was ready to turn in the card, but before he could, the Chiefs traded up to the Bills' spot at number 10 and took Mahomes before one spot before Payton got him, leaving the Saints to draft Ohio State cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. Payton feels as strongly about Bo Nix as he did Mahomes. That's the end of that tweet, Cody. I mean, when you read something like that, or when you hear something like that, I mean, that's not a direct comparison to Mahomes, but Payton feels strongly about this selection, and understandably so. It's the first quarterback he's ever selected in the first round as a head coach.
And there's a lot of pressure associated with that. You and I talked about it earlier. Like Sean's legacy is essentially on the line here when it comes to, okay, hey, you're taking a quarterback. You need to make sure this quarterback pans out. And I think there was a common discussion. We've seen it in our comments. We've seen it on social media. Well, the Broncos, they just got the sixth quarterback off the board. It doesn't matter if he was the sixth quarterback off the board when he was the top quarterback on their board. I think it goes Caleb Williams. Jaden Daniels was their second quarterback from what I've been told. And then Bo Nix was their third quarterback on their board specifically. Those first two guys aren't there. So they're going with the guy that they believe like, hey, we are very comfortable and confident in this guy and what he's able to do. So for me, I think that's where we really have to kind of look at things for what it is here. Sean Payton loves Bo Nix. He's going to design this offense around his structure, but also what Bo does really well. And I think the offense from a scheme and from a structure standpoint, Sayre, I think we're going to see something entirely different than what we saw last year. I think we are going to see a little bit of, like I encourage Broncos fans, you get access to the All-22, go start watching some of the Saints games with Drew Brees. Go watch the film there because I think you're going to see a lot more of Sean Payton trying to get back to who he was as a play caller. You've got Pete Carmichael back in the building now. You've got Joe Lombardi. Like that Saints brain trust from when he was there is here now. They have a collective vision for the offense, and now Bo is stepping into that with the keys to the kingdom. And with that comes a lot of pressure, not just on Bo, but for Sean Payton himself.
It absolutely does. I mean, Sean Payton will be feeling the heat, especially as divisive as this pick is going to be. You and I aren't going to sidestep the fact that, like you said at the top of the show, I mean, there's going to be a lot of division in Broncos country about this pick. People are going to say, well, the Broncos just got the sixth quarterback in the first round at 12 overall. I mean, how good can this guy be really? Or they just settled for this pick or this, that, and the other. And, oh, they were always going to get their guy. That's what teams say every year at the draft is we got our guy, or we were able to, we were just lucky that we were able to get him where we were picking. You know, they say all these things. And I think that really that's what Sean Payton warned against weeks ago. I think he's been kind of slowly kind of trickle these hints and clues to the fan base and maybe the people who are actually listening to be able to say, look, don't buy into Bo Nix is the sixth best quarterback in this draft. Bo Nix isn't a first round quarterback in this draft. He's been trying to warn us for a really long time. Hey, I'm telling you that I like a guy that not everybody else likes, and he's going to work in this offense. And I think for him to be sold, Cody, it was going to take maybe just one final nail in the coffin, which Adam Schefter says was a private workout that we've discussed already. He says the night before the workout, the Broncos sent Nix 3 packets of offensive play installation. The next morning, as they worked in the classroom with Nix, according to Schefter, he crushed it. And the Broncos then took Nix from the classroom to the field, watched him throw for an hour, and they were convinced that they had the quarterback that they wanted. And like I said, that Sean Payton felt as strongly about as Mahomes. The Broncos' legwork on quarterback, no offense, they didn't take the guys to Top Golf, okay? This was a legitimate operation orchestrated by an adult coaching staff. Cody, are you upset at all that the Broncos didn't take a group of QBs to Top Golf here with this pick?
No, not at all. Look, you want to be able to see what can the guy do. And the thing is they also threw things at him. Like they planned things in this packet there, but they also threw things that maybe they didn't emphasize as much on in the packet. And so they threw like, okay, a wrinkle, a curveball into it. And he responded really well. And that's what you want to see. Like, how do you handle a curveball? How do you handle something that changes from the structure? Like, because you mentioned you get a packet. Okay, we're going to go over these things. Oh, wait, I don't remember that really being emphasized in there. How do you respond? He retained the information, right? And that's what you want, because when you're in the classroom and you're reading defenses, you're going over your offensive game plan. Can you retain the information on here's how we attack this team's defense this week? Here's how we put our playmakers in the best position to succeed. And here's how maybe like calling out, an audible at the line of scrimmage, changing your pass protection, understanding where your help is at. That's where Bo really thrives. And that's where Sean Payton is going to get a lot of value out of him going forward. So now I think for us, we're in wait and see mode here going forward. Overall, I think my vibe here, Sayre, I want to get your thoughts on this. I like the pick. I think, outside of my Oregon Duck fandom aside, being able to separate that here, looking at what Bo Nix has been able to do at Oregon, I'm very excited to see how it translates with what Sean Payton historically has been able to do. And if we can see that, and if that's evident on the field, I guarantee you the Broncos are going to be a little bit more successful than most people think. I actually think they have a solid nucleus around him. And now going forward, even into 2025, they can build this team around him. I feel good about it. I like the pick overall. How are you feeling about it before we get off air here?
I feel great about the pick. Honestly, 3 weeks ago, I wrote a post. So for anybody that thinks I'm just changing my thoughts based on what the Broncos did, I wrote a post 3 weeks ago on Predominantly Orange titled "The Perfect First Round Target Couldn't Be Any More Obvious for the Denver Broncos." And it was an article about Bo Nix. I mean, and I just go through all of the different aspects of his game, from the quick strike abilities, the short passing game, good pre-snap recognition. He's got the ability to manipulate defenses, his hand size. He can do he can be aggressive with pump fakes. He can do a lot of different things. The ball comes out with good pace, good effort. He's a play extender. He's more athletic than he's given credit. 3-year starter. He graduated from college. You check off all the boxes on that. Remember the Parcells kind of thing, that the requirements, the prerequisites at the quarterback position that maybe Sean Payton also believes in. Bo Nix checks every single one of those boxes. Third down, he's money. Cody, the third best quarterback in this draft, 43.8% of passing attempts on third downs, resulting in a first down. Everything about this pick, he doesn't take a lot of sacks, he doesn't turn the ball over. All of the things that make him a good prospect are exactly where the Broncos offense faltered last year. I think this is a home run pick, although I know fans are going to be split. Fans are going to be divided on it. But to me, he checks every single box that this team needed at the position.
I agree with you completely there. And look, Broncos country, I think it's just wait and see. Like, let's not get into like a divisive, toxic commentary that, always happens. Like, you just got to let things play out. It could be good. It could be bad. We just don't know yet. But one thing we do know is we'll be here every single day, every step of the way here as the Broncos move forward with Bo Nix as their franchise quarterback. There's more picks to come here for the Denver Broncos, though, on day 2. They're not picking until round number 3. Maybe they could trade back up in round 2. One thing you can expect, Sayre Bedinger, myself, will have you covered every single day, every step of the way. Locked On Broncos, free and available everywhere you get your podcast. Let us know what you thought about today's episode if you're listening wherever you get your podcast or on YouTube. But we'll see you next time for a brand new episode, Locked On Broncos, after Denver finalizes their NFL draft picks.